I was saying, y'all, but Rico from StreetScores. We just finished up on the Commanders Kings channel. Shouts out to all y'all that pulled up, that left likes, donated, great comments, great opinions, all of that. But we're here to break down this Trey Amos pick, who we took in the second round. He is a second round steal. I'm telling you right now. I have a all-pro comp. I have some shades of comps too. Like I have like a few names that I'm kind of like, okay, I can see this, but I'm leaning more so towards one all-pro comp for him. And we also are going to dive into how a lot of the experts and even other fans of other teams feel about this pick. Everybody feels like it's a home run. It's an A+ pick. He had no business being there. We're going to dive into his skill set, his strengths, his weaknesses, his team fit, what this means for our cornerback group. Everything, man. We're going to dive into who he is, his history with the fact that he was a backup to Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold just back in 2023, then transferred to Ole Miss. We're going to dive into all of that, man. But before we get into everything, make sure you stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion videos just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting all of the videos, pulling up to my live stream for day 1. Pulling up to the Commanders Kings for day 2, and then I'll be back on my live stream tomorrow. Technically it's 12:57 a.m. so later today for day 3, rounds 4 through 7. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'll be breaking down, predicting, and analyzing every pick that we do, along with a lot of the picks that other teams do as well, because again, y'all know I'm a draft guy at heart, so I can't wait to see what other teams get. I can't wait to see where certain players land and things like that. So make sure you pull up for that again, and I'm gonna have y'all covered for every draft pick, analysis, film sessions. If you're not a channel member yet, go become one, and even the undrafted free agents. And without further ado, let's go dive into this video right now, man. I've already wasted too much of y'all time. Let's get it. Adam. Yes, sir. Welcome to Washington, Trey Amos. Just in case if y'all didn't know, shouts out to Rio Robinson for pointing out the fact that that's his full name. You know, we just say Trey Amos. That's what everybody says. His full name is Trey Amos, and I'm going to try my best to only call him Trey. I don't want to ever call him Trey Amos from this point on. Also, I have Joe Wood Jr. in the background because he finally got a good player to add to the defense, man, because we've been mostly built like all of our major trades, both of them, offensive side of the ball, first round pick, offensive side of the ball. So I know Cliff Kingsbury was sitting pretty. Joe Jr. is like, man, when y'all gonna get me an edge, when you gonna get me a corner? Well, there you go. You have yourself a potential shutdown corner again. We're gonna get there eventually. When we get to my comps for him, I have an all-pro comp that I feel like he's the closest to, man. I'm super excited. And just to give you a heads up, for those of y'all that may already know like where I'm leaning towards the comp, I'll give you a clue. He went to Westlake High School, the same high school that I went to. Cam Newton, Adam Pac-Man Jones, a lot of us out here, you know what I'm saying? We just one of them schools, we just do this, you know what I'm saying? So a Westlake High School corner is my all-pro comp for him. We'll get there later. That's a clue if you want to go ahead and, you know, figure it out yourself. But eventually we'll get there and we'll talk about it, and I'll explain why that's my comp for him and all of that. But just to let you know, he had an 89.9 coverage grade since 2023, which is 5th most among all cornerbacks. Insane. Also, shouts out to Ryan Fowler because I agree. Trey Amos is an extremely fluid defensive back that makes wide receivers work for every inch off the line. Excellent trigger and transitions down the field in zone as well. I want to add, I would argue that he probably has the best like flip hips and then run down the field to not get beat deep out of any corner in this class. If you had to pick one thing that he's arguably the best at, is you could argue is pass breakups, and it's the ability to flip his hips and run down the field so that he doesn't get beat deep. But this guy had 15 pass breakups in 2024, which was the second best out of all college football. And most people felt like he was a first-round talent. So Washington getting him at 61 is insane. And again, we're going to dive into how a lot of experts felt about it. They're giving us A+. They're saying arguably still of the draft, all kinds of stuff. We'll get there later. Also, shouts out to Resh Manuel. I don't know how he does it, but somehow he always keeps tracks of all of these connections. He pointed out recent Commanders defensive back acquisitions, both Jonathan Jones, who we signed to free agency, and Trey Amos, who this entire video is about, both played some college ball under defensive back Travaris Robinson, who's now with my Georgia Bulldogs as our like I think defensive backs coach, DB court, defensive passing game going. All the way, I'm just really happy to have him as far as development and recruiting. But Jonathan Jones and Trey Amos both play under him at times in college. And just to let you know, Travaris Robinson was a coach with Dan Quinn at Florida and was teammates with Joe Wood Jr. at Auburn. The connections are all over the place. I'm pretty sure Joe Wood Jr., Dan Quinn, and even Jonathan Jones. I mean, anybody that you could ask, all of those guys had connections to Travaris Robinson. Whatever background research you needed to do on Trey Amos, they were able to get it. Also, Trey Amos, just to remind you, started his college career with the Raging Cajuns down in Louisiana, and so he also played ball with Percy Butler and Andre Jones, who are on the team as well. That's really cool. So we'll see if Percy Butler even ends up making the team. I mean, he's great on special teams. I don't love him in the secondary like that. If he makes the team, then those are two former teammates that are playing together, so that's cool. Also, remember, Trenavian Amos did play for the Alabama Crimson Tide. He played under Nick Saban. He was a backup to Terrion Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry. He was a really good corner there. But do you bench either of those two guys for the guy that's younger than them? You could argue that Trey Amos may actually end up being the better NFL player than even those other two that he was behind in the depth chart. But once Nick Saban retired, that's when he decided to transfer to Ole Miss, like a lot of people did. Nick Saban retiring, there was like this huge exodus of talent from Alabama. So it's no surprise. And then Nick Saban, even when Trey Amos was drafted, he said that Amos can redirect, is very instinctive, and has good ball skills, and has the speed to play for sure. So Nick Saban had some pretty good praise for Trey Amos, but nowhere near as high as a lot of the draft experts feel. I'm surprised that Nick Saban didn't give even more praise than that. Also, per Pro Football Focus, they feel like this was a huge steal. They said that he can also play some zone coverage. He does some of his best work from cover 3 and quarter schemes, and he recorded a forced incompletion percentage above 20% in each of the past 3 seasons. Just to let you know, that's ridiculous. Really good corners are somewhere in the range of 15 to 20%. He was at 20% each of the last 2 seasons. In the SEC, playing for Alabama and then Ole Miss, SEC against elite talent. We're going to talk about the talent that he went against very soon. He's also a really good athlete. In-game athleticism score, the IGA, he has a 91, which is 91st percentile. They said he's a savvy mover with functional twitch, projects as a scheme versatile defensive back to the next level, shows the ability to mirror routes, redirect, and close in coverage when it counts. Again, so you have the floor that we've already discussed with the pass breakups and the experience, the scheme versatility. He's also a ridiculous athlete. Even though he didn't necessarily test as well at the combine as you'd hoped, when you actually watch the tape, he's a far better athlete than his testing skills actually reflect. So I'm not even going to show you his relative athletic score because I feel like it's insignificant. He's a better athlete than his relative athletic score lets on. That's why I love like in-game athleticism scores, because they go based purely off of the tape, and they're able to measure people's athleticism with the pads and the helmets on, which is what matters most. It doesn't matter how fast you are without the pads and the helmets at the combine in this isolated environment. How much of an athlete, how great of an athlete are you when it matters most on Sundays when you're on the field, shoulder pads and helmets? And he's one of the elite athletes of this draft class when it comes to that. Again, don't trust the combine testing. Even though he still ran pretty fast, I think he ended up with like a 4.43 40 time, but I think he's even faster than that on tape. And also in a single season as a Rebel, Amos played in all 13 games for Ole Miss after racking up 50 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, 13 pass breakups, and hauled in 3 interceptions, making his presence known all across the field. Now, this is coming from the Ole Miss website themselves, but I thought he got credited with 15 pass breakups, but either way, great. Also, he allowed only a 54.5 passer rating in 2024. That's elite, man. And I mean, this is a guy that can play press. He can play some man. He can play press zone. He can play some cover 3. He can do anything that you want to, man. This is a first-round talent that had no business falling to the second round. I honestly feel like if he would have just stayed for one more year, or you could even argue if either Kool-Aid McKinstry or Terrion Arnold, neither of those guys existed, so Trey Amos starts for Alabama in 2023. If he has 2 years worth of starting experience, he doesn't make it out of the first round. So for us to get him at 61 is insane value. We had no business getting a first round talent like Trey Amos, I would argue, man. I'm telling you right now, because again, if he would have just maybe went back to Ole Miss for one more year and started again, he didn't even have to improve. Just do exactly what you did in 2024 again in 2025. he's not making it out of the first round. Some people just probably were lower on him because of only 1 year of actual true starting experience. But I'm telling you right now, we got a guy with a high ceiling that's only going to get better. And you could also argue, especially again with the reasons I've just stated, at 61, he was arguably best player available regardless of position. And also at a position of need, which makes it even better. Best player available, the top player on your board if you're the Commanders, and at a position that we needed, specifically outside corner. So thank you for not reaching that edge for that, because we still need edge. But thank you for going for best cornerback available, best player available, rather than reaching for an edge that isn't that good. Thank you for taking the highest player on your board, Adam Peters and the Washington Commanders. And to go back to what I foreshadowed earlier, man, this guy is extremely battle-tested, man. He went up against Trey Harris, my favorite receiver in the entire class, every day in practice, and covered some of the best receivers in college football, man. I mean, if you look on the screen right now, these are some all 22 highlights of Trey Amos locking up Xavier Worthy on 1 rep, then locking up my Georgia dog Brock Bowers on 1 rep. When you're looking at the bottom of the screen, all of these are pass breakups, lockdown moments. Then you have Roman Wilson of Michigan, who a lot of us wanted to the Commanders, and these are all different types of routes too that he's locking up. And then you have Brian Thomas at the top of your screen, locking him down too on a comeback route. Get that out of here. And that was Jaden Daniels throwing that ball to Brian Thomas, just to let you know. And then you have another Brian Thomas play locking that down as well. So this is a guy that can erase Brian Thomas from a game again at the top of the screen again. And that's a guy that just killed it as a rookie at the NFL level. Trey Amos was doing this against him as a non-starter. Insane stuff, man. I mean, the level of competition that he played was ridiculous. At Alabama and Ole Miss, consistently playing in the SEC, all of the receivers he's had to go against, we could sit here for a long time listing all of the really good receivers that he's had to cover, and covered very well. And like my boy, like Louis T brought up, arguably the only game that you can look at and be like, that wasn't that good of a game from Trey Amos is probably the LSU game. That's it. And even then, he had some high moments like you saw against Brian Thomas right there. But any other game that you can watch on this tape from 2024, I think it's all high-level first-round talent level of play. Now, I've seen some people comp him to Kamari Lassiter. I would argue if you want to comp him to my Georgia dog, Kamari Lassiter, then I would say maybe Kamari Lassiter with a little bit more athleticism, a little bit more speed. That's how I would describe him. I've also seen somebody comp him to Jalen Johnson. That's a really good comp right there. That would be really nice. Like, we would win. But ultimately, I feel like AJ Terrell is his best comp, man. I literally, after we picked him and we were still doing the Commanders King stream, I already watched him and I already saw like some shades of AJ Terrell. But then I really sat down and just was like, all right, while we're streaming and we're still discussing what may happen with the rest of the draft, we're analyzing every pick, I was like, on the side, before this Timberwolves game start, let me go ahead and bring up some more Trey Amos, you know, all 22 tape. You know, I got the caddies cut ups, all of that type of stuff. And so I just saw pure, once I had AJ Terrell in my head and I was rewatching his tape, I was like, literally, AJ Terrell. And I can tell you again, a guy that went to the same high school as AJ Terrell. I've been watching him high school, college, NFL. As much as I hate them, sorry Falcons, he's a great player for them. He made second team All-Pro just a couple of years ago. He is an elite cornerback. I can definitely see AJ Terrell all over Trey Amos' tape. And Ian Cummins even agrees. He said, Commanders fans, you got a good one. Trey Amos was my 16th overall prospect in this class. Not 16th corner, 16th prospect. And we got him in the reverse. Instead of 1-6, we got him at 6'1", 61st overall. Shades of AJ Terrell, fast, long, fluid, twitchy, and so instinctive. Amos and Mike Sanford still in the same secondary equals. Lock. Literally he just put a lock emoji. Lock down. And again, Ian Cummins had him as his 16th overall player. He's flabbergasted with the fact that that AJ Terrell, aka Trenavian Amos, even made it to our pick. And then the only time I'm gonna show you his relative athletic score is to prove my point about the whole AJ Terrell thing, because they're pretty similar in a lot of different ways when you're looking at their relative athletic scores. And again, I want to emphasize that Trey Amos did not test as well and he was not as good of an athlete at the combine as he actually is on tape. I think he's actually somewhere even more athletic than AJ Terrell on tape. I think he's a little bit quicker, a little bit faster. Again, I just feel like I don't know what happened at the combine. He was a little disappointing there. It was still really good. And you could argue he was probably the best cornerback when it came to drills at the combine, but his testing just wasn't as great as I thought it would be. And then going back to Ian Cummins, he also said one of my favorite reps of Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos, top of the screen, as you can see on the screen right now. He said, starts off in press man and carries the cross to the easy, but recognizes the running back wheel route, peels off, closes, and makes a play. His instincts, vision, and diagnosis are major strengths in both man and zone. This guy is really versatile, and again, his relative athletic score doesn't do his actual real athleticism justice. I'm telling you right now, this guy has a higher ceiling than you even think, and he also comes with a crazy floor, as you can see in that play that I just showed you. And then also, one last comp that I don't perfectly agree with, but I've seen Kansas City Chiefs version of Les Snead as a comp for Trey Amos, and hey man, if he turns into that, I would prefer AJ Terrell. But if he turns into Les Snead, that's great as well, especially in the second round. That's insane value. And now I want to point out the fact that this makes Mike Sainristil better. That's why this pick is so elite. Just like with Josh Connolly, you drafted him at right tackle, forcing Brandon Coleman to move to starting left guard. I think Brandon Coleman's highest ceiling is at left guard. I think he's a solid tackle. I think he's Pro Bowl potential at left guard. I think you could potentially have two Pro Bowlers as your guard duo between him and Samuel Cosmi. And drafting Josh Connolly moves Brandon Coleman to a position that I feel like he will be better suited for. And so that's one pick that makes multiple people better. Same thing with Trey Amos. Now Mike Sainristil will move back from outside corner to the slot, where I feel like he has Pro Bowl potential. I think he's a solid outside corner. He held his own at times last season, but Mike Sainristil going into this offseason knowing that he's purely the slot. We have two definitive, really good outside corners. Mike Sainristil doesn't have to worry about playing outside corner anymore. You're going to focus solely on being a slot, and that's it. Now, that cross-training of having to play outside corner, I'm pretty sure some of those traits and some of that experience is going to help him be an even better slot. So, you know, we're thankful for what happened last season, but now working and training solely for being a slot corner, I'm telling you right now, he has top 2, top 3 slot corner potential. He doesn't have top 3 outside corner potential. He has top 3 slot corner potential, though. I'm thinking like Brian Branch level potential. Like, I think he could be that much of a playmaker. Watch out. So again, Trey Amos not only makes you better because you finally got an outside corner, he also makes Mike Sainristil better because he's going to be at his more natural position, just like I feel like with Brandon Coleman moving the guard. I mean, again, like I said, coming into this draft, we didn't necessarily need corner because we were 4 deep at corner. But we needed outside corner specifically. Marshall Lattimore was our only pure outside corner. Mike Sainristil, Jonathan Jones, who we signed to free agency, and Noah Benogany, who we re-signed, can all kind of play outside corner, but all 3 of those guys are better suited for slot corner. Now you have a true outside corner that forces Mike Sainristil back inside, which is where his highest potential and ceiling is. And then now your depth is insane. I don't think y'all have actually thought about the depth of this team right now. You're going from Michael Davis, Benjamin St. Juste, and Emmanuel Forbes to your backups are Noah Benogany and Jonathan Jones, with your starters Trey Amos, Marshall Lattimore, and Mike Sainristil. Come on, man. I feel like we don't even have to analyze anything anymore. Just say those names, compare what we had in 2024 pre-Marshall Lattimore trade to what we have now going into 2025, and there's nothing else to say. But now, also, if you don't want to take my word for it, just in case if you don't love the pick off of just what I've told you and even shown you on the screen, here's a bunch of draft experts, football experts. They live and breathe this stuff. And then even also towards the end, I'm going to show you what other fans of other teams are saying about this Trey Amos pick. Trey Amos, my fault. Starting with Mina Combs. She tweeted this back on April 12th. Watching Ole Miss cornerback Trey Amos, dude is a pass breakup machine. Very savvy about using his long arms at just the right time, can play both press man and reads quarterbacks well in zone. I am a big fan. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and just let this play while we're talking about some more reviews from draft experts. Man, look at this guy. But shouts out to Warren Sharp. He said, Trey Amos to the Commanders is a perfect blend of tremendous value and great fit. An outstanding pick for Adam Peters. Then you have NFL Draft Files. He said Trey Amos impressed at the combine with a 4.44 40 time and excellent drills. But how's the tape? Well, strong press technique, fluid hips, ball skills, keen eyes in zone, downhill trigger and tackling, borderline first round talent. Basically saying we had no business getting them where we got them. Then the 33rd team, they said Trey Amos was the number 33 player on our big board. The tail of the tape, quote, Amos physically looks like an NFL cornerback and he plays like one too. This is a talent who offers above average transitional burst despite being built like a modern prototype at cornerback. He's a big player who can successfully attack and punch up in weight class against big receivers thanks to his length, feet, and functional strength. And that's why some people compare him to Marlon Humphrey of the Baltimore Ravens as well, because he's big, but he's going to play even bigger than he already is, and he moves smaller than he is. That's a great athlete. And again, 33rd team had him as their 33rd player on their big board for us to get him at 61 still. Ari Myrov said, this is also just amazing value. That's all he had to say. Then Pro Football Focus, they picked their elite draft picks of the second round. They had Luther Burden to the Bears. They had Donovan Ezeraku to the Cowboys. I agree. They have Will Johnson to the Cardinals. I agree. And then they have Trenavian Amos to the Washington Commanders as the 4 best picks out of the entire second round. Every team that picked, they felt like we were one of the 4 best picks. And they even had to say, Max Chadwick from Pro Football Focus said the Commanders got to steal in Trey Amos. This is a home run pick for Washington. The exact quote. Continuing, shouts out to Al Galdi for pointing out the fact that Pro Football Focus had them ranked 28th, Daniel Jeremiah 42nd, Mel Kiper 43rd, and Todd McShay 48th. So at the very least, worst case scenario, we still got really good value at 61. He had no business being there. But again, you had some people, Ian Cummins had him as high as their 16th best player out of the entire draft. Ridiculous value to get him 43 picks later than where he should have gone. Then you have NFL Draft Files. They said he's a great player who should have been taken way sooner. Nothing else to say. Grade A, because he goes through and grades every single pick of the entire draft. And he just kept it short and to the point, straight up A pick. He gave us the exact same grade that he gave the Baltimore Ravens for getting Mike Green. He feels like he's arguably about the same steal. I mean, again, Pro Football Focus didn't have Mike Green to the Ravens as one of their 4 best steals of the second round. I'm a little surprised there, though. Then SB Nation, they gave it an A+. They said this is a phenomenal pick for the Commanders, a perfect scheme fit for Washington. I agree. Then Walter Football, he gave it an A+ as well. He said another A+ pick from a team in the I-95 corridor. Trey Amos, he's talking about the Baltimore Ravens as well with Mike Green. Trenavian Amos is a tall cornerback with great speed and athleticism. I've had him in the first round of many of my mock drafts, so I love this pick. The Redskins could have easily have gotten them in the first round, and nobody would have questioned it if we got him at 29. That's like the general consensus. It's crazy that we got him at 61 because we could have gotten him at 29 and nobody would have batted an eye. And Ian Cummins, again, would have even felt like at 29 would have been still, let alone 61st. And to finish up what Walter Football says, he feels the need to go along with Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Sanderstill. That's your 3-headed monster at corner right there. And then also you have Clint Goss at NFL Draft Dome. He said the best pick of the night, he had Trey Amos as his top 35 player in his big board. He might be the most pro-ready day one corner out of the entire class. Length, press man, experience in multiple schemes, A+ for the Washington Commanders and Dan Quinn. And then you have at Goat House NFL, just still in all caps, my number 3 corner out of the entire draft, extremely instinctive and physical cornerback, elevated Ole Miss's pass defense in just 1 year, going to come in and make an impact for Dan Quinn, day one, A++ pick. So Goat House feels like this is probably the best pick of the entire draft as well. Walter Football loves it. All of these guys that normally used to hate on the Commanders for the picks we used to make, they love it. Then you have this guy named Alex. He's a Patriots fan and an LSU fan. He said, banger pick here for Washington. This completes their cornerback room and allows Sanderstill to play the slot. Trey Amos is really good. My number 27 ranked prospect. Again, we got him at 61. He's got plenty good athleticism with great man and zone coverage and run defense. He'll ball out for Washington at corner opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. Then you have a Packers fan. He said with Connolly and Trey Amos, the Commanders are quietly putting together one of my favorite draft classes. And remember, we picked after Baltimore, and he tweeted that about us and not even them. Then you have even an Eagles fan. He said, dang, can't believe they let Trey Amos fall to the Commanders at 61. Need to know why he fell. So Eagles fans are confused, like, how did the Commanders get Trey Amos at 61? Basically, there has to be something up. Is he hurt? Are there off the field issues? Like, Eagles fans are out here coming up with excuses as that there's no way that the Commanders just got to pick that a guy with that much talent that late in the draft. I mean, again, I just want to remind y'all, we went from Benjamin St. Juste, Michael Davis, and Emmanuel Forbes to Trey Amos, Mike Saverstill, Marshawn Lattimore, Jonathan Jones, and Noah Benogany, man. I mean, and you need great corners in this division, man. You need O-line and corners to even try to thrive in this division. With all of the pass rush and great defensive linemen in this division, and all of the receivers, the great receivers that is all up and down this division as well, man. You need really good corners and really good offensive linemen. We have a top 5 offensive line with the Josh Connolly pick. We'll see what our cornerback group ends up being. I wouldn't be surprised if it's top 10. And you need that in this division. So we're just basically looking at what the division's strengths are, and we're like, we got to counter that. Y'all want to go ahead and have arguably the best trenches in any out of any division in football. All right, we're going to put together a top 5 offensive line. You want to go and get all of these good receivers? All right, give me Trey Amos to shut them down, along with Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Saverstill. And then also, Adam Peters spoke after the draft on the pick. First of all, the most notable thing is that he said he got calls from teams to trade back, and they had options, but they knew if Trey Amos and other players were still on the board, they were the pick, basically. So Trey Amos was the highest player on the board, but he said, and one more other player, which sounds like Mike Green to me is what I would assume, just to throw that out there. But Trey Amos being available, they were thinking about trading back, just like with Josh Connolly. They got calls to trade back. They got calls to not even have to trade back very far, but they love Josh Connolly so much they sat there and took him. Same exact thing with Tre'Navian Amos. Adam Peters addressed the media, said, quote, "We would have taken him in our first round pick," unquote. Talking about Tre'Navian Amos. That says a lot about what they think about him. Clearly the top player on their board. If they feel like, man, this is tough, we got to choose between Josh Connolly and Trey Amos, 29th overall. They took Josh Connolly. I'm pretty sure they feel like it's a home run pick for somehow, if they were willing to take him at 29, he still ended up being there at 61. I'm pretty sure Adam Peters and company are like, there's no way this guy's available. Pretty sure they sprinted to make that call. And then also, Adam Peters said, quote, "He's earned everything he's got, and his play style is everything we want in a corner." He said he's a press corner who can be really physical at the line of scrimmage, but he can really play in any scheme that you want. He's got everything you could want in a corner, unquote. Adam Peters, I mean, of course he came into this draft knowing he only had 5 picks. Shouts out to JP Finley for pointing this out. Adam Peters knew the questions on edge. Adam Peters knew 61 was his last chance to trade back for the real haul. And considering all of that with only 5 picks, it's clear how much they wanted Trey Amos. The fact that he didn't gain more draft capital instead of drafting this guy. They're in love with him. Again, they thought that they may even consider him at 29 to get him at 61. Insane. And then Trey Amos also spoke after the pick as well. He said getting the call from the Commanders was surreal. He said he wasn't expecting Washington to take him, but he had a great relationship with the staff during the pre-draft process. So he's the exact opposite of Josh Connolly. Josh Connolly just assumed we were getting him. He felt like we had a great chance of doing it. It made too much sense. It's kind of like he expected it. Trey Amos was the opposite. But he said he was asked about playing against Jaden Daniels in college. His only answer was, quote, "Man," unquote. And I love that, man. The respect that both of these draft picks have for Jaden Daniels tells you everything you need to know. Also, shouts out to @RedZone in the lab because he brings up a good point. Technically, draft pick wise, first round, Josh Babyface Connolly Jr., then second round, Trey Amos. Third round, technically, Marshawn Lattimore. Third round, Laramie Tunsil. And then fifth round, Deebo Samuel. Technically, if you want to get real technical with it, that's our draft class right now. You know what I'm saying? So I know people are looking like, when we only made 2 picks in the first 2 rounds, whereas the Bears and all these other teams have made 4 or 5 picks. But you got to remember that you have Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel because of that, and Marshawn Lattimore because we traded away these picks that we should have had in this draft class. And when you put it in that perspective, it's beautiful. And just to remind you, going into tomorrow, we have a round 4 pick of 128th overall, a round 6 pick, 205th, and then a 7th round pick, 245th. We'll see what we do with them. Of course, right now, our biggest needs are edge, running back, well, home run hitting running back with some speed. Wide receiver, I would argue, with some speed and a kicker. You're more than likely going to wait till an undrafted free agent for kicker. But shouts out to Seawall Sports because she brings up a great point. She said her biggest takeaway so far for me is that the Commanders draft is in their first 2 picks, that both of them were the highest on their board. The team was surprised that both fell to where they did, got calls for draft pick positioning to move back, and in both instances, they did not think it was worth the risk because they liked the players that much. I love it. Now go get Justin Simmons after the draft. And if you ask me, the top 4 available players going into day 3 are edge rusher Braden Swinson from LSU, situational pass rusher, second highest pressure rate out of any edge rusher in this class, only behind James Pierce, but he's not really good against the run yet. That may take a couple of years, but as a situational pass rusher, literally, you lose Dante Fowler, you draft his replacement that has a higher ceiling, basically, in that. And then Kyle Kennard, pretty similar as well at edge rusher. And then I would say DJ Giddens at running back, and also Basho Tootin at running back. And DJ Giddens, I swear, if he just stayed in college for one more year, he's a first-round talent, at worst, high second-round talent. No lie. So go ahead and take him now. While people are afraid of the fact that he's barely played any football, he has so much freakish athleticism and talent in him. You see the flashes. You just also see the rawness of a guy that just started playing running back just really like a few months ago. Take him and let Anthony Lynn get his hands on him. It's up. Shouts out to Louis T because he brings up a good point. And even as a Georgia Bulldog fan, I'm leaning towards agreeing. You know what I'm saying? I hold Todd Gurley in high regard because I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan. I don't like when people comp people to Todd Gurley. But DJ Giddens, I can kind of see it. I saw some Caleb Johnson to Todd Gurley comps. I didn't like that. DJ Giddens, Louis T brings up a good point. I'm leaning towards I can see it. He's 1 year away from almost being basically Todd Gurley. Again, I don't think he makes it out of the first round, honestly, if he stayed in college one more year. Get him while you can now, and then he'll be that either this year or next year. Insane value, arguably still in the draft. So those are my top 4 players that's available. Running back DJ Giddens, running back Basho Tootin, and edge rusher Braden Swinson and Kyle Kennard. You miss out on any of those 4 guys at those 2 different positions, I'm probably just like, hey, I guess we're going to have to get some guy in free agency or figure something out. But that's really it for me as far as running backs that I love that's available. There's some guys I like. I like the Ja'Cory Croskett kid. I like Ollie Gordon a little bit. But those are my main 2 at running back. And edge rusher, outside of Braden Swinson and Kyle Kennard, I'm good on anybody. I don't want anybody else. No Jack Sawyer. No nothing. No thanks. I like some receivers as well, like Dante Thornton for his speed. Jalen Royals is really talented. I just don't think either of those guys are going to make it to 128. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all stay tuned for all of the videos that I'm going to be coming out with. You know I'm going to do videos just like this one for every single draft pick. And of course, I'm working on film sessions for every draft pick because the reason that like in previous years I didn't get as many film sessions done as I wanted because I was too worried about trying to edit them and making them perfect and things like that. Nah, we're just doing pure raw uncut. I'm barely gonna even edit it unless there's just this big gap of nothing going on. I'll take that out, but generally I'm gonna keep mistakes in there. I just want these film sessions to get done because I'm pretty sure y'all prefer raw and edited film sessions than me taking forever to barely do any film sessions at all. So make sure you stay tuned for those if you're not a channel member. I really appreciate y'all. Let's get it, man. Again, I will be breaking down every single draft pick. I'm live streaming tomorrow/today for day 3 rounds 4 through 7. I may not necessarily, stay live streaming the entire time, but I do want to live stream for at least some of it. I will be breaking down every single draft pick, even some undrafted free agents, so stay tuned for all of that. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about Trey Amos, man. What would be your closest comp to him? Do you love this pick? Do you feel like a lot of these experts where he's arguably one of the steals of the draft already? Let me know how you feel about everything. I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.